Hey everybody, welcome to another Probably Private. I'm Catherine Jarmal, and today we're going to bust some agent-based privacy and security myths. Now, I haven't talked much about agents on this channel yet because I myself hadn't used a lot of frameworks, and I was cautiously observing the conversations around agent frameworks from a privacy and security perspective, but now I've been a bit more clueful, and I want to tell you just from what I've seen and analyzed and looked at now, what I think are some common design patterns that are truly privacy and security anti-patterns or beliefs, and I'm not trying to blame anybody, but beliefs people have about how agent systems work and how that might affect what data they use with them, and try to share maybe some advice from somebody that has been working in AI privacy and security for a while. Okay, number one myth that I see, and this might not be applied to you because you follow this channel, but a lot of people seem to think, well, I have agent framework A, OpenClaw, NanoClaw, whatever it is, Crew, there's millions now. I have it running on a local Mac Mini. That means that it's doing the AI locally. This is not true. So you gave it an API key, and I know that to some degree people know this, right? Because they put in an API key, or they gave it, their Pro or Max license or whatever it is that they have, right? That data is literally just flowing from your local Mac Mini to whatever third-party AI vendor you're using and back. Let's just be real. None of the quote-unquote AI is running locally. What's running locally is maybe a plugin to look for a new AI to use, or a marketplace to search for a skill to use, which, by the way, is then also going to make a data request to an MCP server or something else like this. By the way, a bunch of this stuff is over HTTP, not even HTTPS. That means it's not even encrypted over the internet. I think this is especially important for people to understand that may or may not have an internet provider that they trust, or an internet system in their country that they trust. I really want you to know that the data is leaving your machine, it is going somewhere else, and it is coming back. And the data is, for MCP, a lot of the data is over HTTP, which means it's in the clear across the internet. Just treat it as such. I'm not telling you what to do with your data. I mean, I kind of am, but I just want you to know it's not running locally. If you want to run things locally, I'm here for you. I'm going to show you. Subscribe. Check out my other videos on local AI. There are ways for you to actually serve models locally and have your agent framework talk to the actual local machine and make sure that that data isn't going to an AI vendor and back, right? But by no means is it local when you just install an agent framework and give it an API key. Okay, first big myth. Second, agents are not LLMs. Yes, they are. So yes, there may be LLMs that also have what we call tool calling capabilities. There may be 5 LLMs in a hat. It's not just one LLM, but they are definitely LLMs. And this means they have all of the same data, hallucination, other problems that LLMs do. So everything that you've heard about LLMs applies to agents. Just that agents are actually quite a bit more dangerous because agents are an LLM in a loop. So think about, we've actually done this, so I'll link. We attacked an LLM with another LLM by putting them in a loop together, called a crescendo attack. And that's all an agent is. I mean, it's not with an attack, although it could be, right? But an agent is an LLM in a loop with itself, right? So LLM says, blah, 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 why don't we try this? Call this bash command. Then computer says, okay, I make a process call, process goes to bash, it runs this command, siphon all the output of that, and then send it back to the LLM, and then the LLM will say what to do next. Is this in a cycle? It's called the agentic loop. Is just an LLM vomiting with itself loop is how I would describe it. And I still use these things, right? It's fine, but let's be very real about what is happening, okay? Because bash, like, let's just say you don't even install. Like, I would recommend at this point not using a lot of plugins. And if you are going to use a plugin or an extra skill that you installed, I would recommend really auditing that and making sure it's not just some random vibe coded stuff from the internet, but that somebody took some time and effort into thinking through how to build that skill, or it comes from a reputable organization. But even if, let's say, you don't install the extra skills, which is how I've been using most of my agent setups to test things out, bash itself, which is by default kind of like what these things will do, especially if you're using coding or other types of data workflows, like somebody like me, bash is extremely powerful. Bash is literally the most powerful tool that you have on your entire machine. And so to mythologize that, especially an LLM in a loop with access to bash cannot do extremely destructive things to your computer and your work is to deeply misunderstand LLMs in a vomit loop with themselves and bash. So I just want to say that. Again, I've been using them, so I'm not trying to, but it's real, and we need to be very real about the paradigms. What my recommendation there is, I've been testing out agent workflows on a separate machine that I make sure does not affect my actual working system. And I have been using VMs and containers and sandboxes to test some of that out. More on that in a second. And I have been very reticent to install extra skills and things. Now, your use is going to be different than mine, which is fine. But I just want you to start thinking, how am I going to manage this? Should it erase everything, or should it, destroy the libraries that I have installed on this machine or whatever? And to just know that these things are possible and to try to think about it. Maybe it means getting 3 Mac minis and having one as a backup that backs up before you start a new task, and then the other one as, the breakable thing. And to, again, also start thinking about local models or other ways of choosing models based on what it is that you're trying to do. Okay. I've kind of touched on it, but I just want to let you know that, like, there's this belief, I think, that if a skill is popular and if it's like the #1 recommended one from a marketplace, that it means it's secure. This is not true. So I will link to some research that some security researchers did that very much showed that the #1 skill for a while on OpenClaw was malware. And it was specifically malware that targets Mac computers, which is pretty rare, but becoming more popular because of this Mac mini usage, right? Or maybe has always been popular, but it is not seen as much in the wild as it has been in recent months. And this is because people using Mac mini, they're giving in a bunch of their personal data. And then this top skill, just hid some Mac info stealing malware in one of the requests. And even though a bunch of these agent frameworks, they try to do their best. They try to say, please never run malware. Please don't install malware. Please analyze things and alert if you see malware. Trying to do best effort, but at the end of the day, it's pretty easy to hide malware unless you're doing full system analysis all the time. And it's a very juicy target to be the top skill, right? Like, it's worth, from a hacker mindset, it's worth putting in some time to poison some skills and to get a bunch of people to install them and to siphon off data for your own use, right? So just because a skill is popular, just because thousands of people are using it, does not mean it's secure. So I go back to, I would validate how long has this organization been around that's offering this skill? Is it a big tech company? Is it another thing? If you're gonna try out a new skill, can you do it in a very VM shut down environment and actually watch the network traffic and watch other traffic so that you can get a feeling? And then I know I'll try to post some, but there's been some research organizations, security research, that try to release, at this point in time, I think they're releasing weekly reports of malware they find in skills. And so I'll try to post some of those so you can just take a look. But just try to be really cautious about tools, plugins, skills, whatever it is called in your framework that you install. Try to be really cautious, okay? I just want you to be safe out there, okay? Fourth thing that I want you to think about is that sandboxing is reliable. So there's numerous of these agent frameworks that build their own sandboxing. And again, I think everybody's doing best effort. I'm not here to critique how difficult it is to sandbox an LLM with bash access, but it's really difficult. I promise you. I've been trying for a few weeks now, and it's a very hard task to do. The sandboxing that's built in, or whatever security protections are built into your agent framework, definitely familiarize yourself with them. Definitely turn them on if they're available, but no, that's not going to be enough. Let me give you an example. I have been using Claude Code for a few weeks now, or actually for a few months now, with both local models and Anthropic models. So to the cloud for some things and local models. I've been then spying on my Claude. So there'll be more posts coming about what's happening there and how you can also spy on your Claude if you want to. And there'll be definitely a deep dive series this coming fall, diving really, really deeply into what I have found and what I will continue to find. But in observing that, I've also been testing out some pretty hardcore sandboxing on things. Let's say, here's just an example, and I'll show you a little screen grab. I've sandboxed and I've said, you're not allowed to do this command. What's going to happen when the LLM says the next command is forbidden command is it will run an error message saying like you were blocked from doing XYZ, right? Or maybe sometimes just say error. Okay, that goes, remember, LLM in a vomit loop with itself, goes back to the LLM. The LLM's like, it's not actually thinking, but it's running linear algebra, right? And at the end, the linear algebra says, when we reach this error, we try this other thing, right? Then it will go do that. Sometimes that's just a slightly modified of the first version, right? So that's fine. That also does an error. Now we have in the context 2 errors in a row of similar commands. What is an LLM going to do when it says this syntax isn't working? It's going to immediately try a different syntax. So I've blocked curl. In like 2 loops of trying curl, it switches to wget, and then it will use wget for the rest of the session. Or I block a certain bash commands. It will find other bash commands that work for the same thing. So what I want you to think about is sandboxing is not going to really work in any original sense of how you think about sandboxing today and how we use it, let's say, for users. And if you work in security engineering, you've probably already been thinking about this, but I'm with you. It's a real problem. I'm going to link some recommendation from Rich Harang, who has been working in machine learning security for a long time and now is leading, I think, in some ways, security at NVIDIA. So really good article. I recommend reading through it if you're thinking about sandboxing. But from what I can tell, we're going to have to use kind of some of the old school tricks of security engineering sandboxing, VMs locked down, with, limited network access, actually working either on the kernel level with eBPF or working on the networking level or both. And that's what's going to end up becoming relatively, the first step for agentic security from a sandboxing perspective. And then what I hope is over time that we can both expect more from the models, and that we need to think maybe through some different paradigms of permissioning and sandboxing that we haven't thought of before, because we have never had an LLM in a loop with itself as a normal operator of our computer. And so I think the industry, especially security and privacy people, if you're watching like myself, I think what we're going to do is we're going to end up creating new systems, frameworks, methods that don't exist yet. And I have some thoughts on that. Both stay tuned here and subscribe to my actual written newsletter if you're into such things, because I will definitely be sharing some of those thoughts there. And then final thought for you is that your data retention period or data retention agreement will save you. And probably from a legal aspect, I'm not a lawyer, I'm not here to give legal advice. Yes. So of course, if your legal team, if your privacy team said, we clarify data retention, we feel comfortable, let's move forward. I'm not here to challenge your legal advice. That's not what I'm doing. But let's say you're just like a hobbyist and you're just I want to build some cool stuff with agents, or you're a small organization and you don't have legal counsel and these types of things. What we already know about a bunch of these AI vendors is, yes, of course they follow your data retention periods, but what was very clear from the short stint of targeted advertising from OpenAI is there's a difference between removing your chats and building a profile that is informed by your chats. We've seen this time and time again in industry, where there's a difference between the actual data that you give them and the data that they build and infer based off of the data that you give any company. And every company is going to make different choices, and I'm not here to point fingers or say anything. But what I am here to say is that there's also a legal distinction between deleting what you literally type in after the 30-day retention period or whatever it is, and deleting something they infer about you that they store in a profile. So until the laws change or until best practice changes, I just want you to know, yes, you should set your data retention, but also agentic workflows work better with personalization and with memory. And to think that those aren't being stored, A, to improve the product overall for people like you, or also to maybe specialize for you or do something for you, would be to miss an entire part of why companies are offering this, right? And so this again says, use the data retention, set it up, but know that just because you deleted a chat doesn't mean that there wasn't some information in that chat saved somewhere else. Now, if you just had like a one-off chat for 2 seconds and then delete it, unlikely, right? But if you are talking about certain themes repeatedly, it's probably going to go into some profile or memory or other structure, and you may even want that. And just to know that that is persistent memory that will be reused and reused. And of course, if you're using agentic memory, that will be reused and reused, right? So just know that and choose responsibly. So we'll be having some stuff on how to set up local models for your agentic AI. Sadly, not as out of the box as you would think. So it's been a learning curve for me to figure out which frameworks really work well with local models and which ones have significant setup challenges. And I hope this will change over time. But if you are really concerned about some data being saved about you, or if you have privacy concerns, about whatever it is you're doing with your agentic workflows, just stay tuned because I got you. And I'm definitely going to be sharing both some code, some learnings, and I'll be sharing some of my first agentic workflows with you on this channel. So let me know, what do you think? What other conversations have you heard in this agentic landscape around privacy and security? What's been your experience you've already collected? And burning questions you have, because I'd love to hear more about what challenges you're facing with the agentic AI you're building and make sure that I'm providing stuff that's helpful for you. That's not just KJM talking to herself, right? So that's what I'm here for. Leave me some feedback in the comments. If you liked this, if it was helpful, please subscribe, share it with a friend. It helps me definitely keep going. So I will see you next week. Ciao.